大家好，欢迎今天的主厨戈登·拉姆齐给我们带来的烹饪教程。很高兴戈登·拉姆齐大厨为我们带来的美味西餐佳肴蘑菇芦笋配红酒煮蛋的西餐烹饪手法。这道菜肴巧妙地结合了红葡萄酒为调料配上蘑菇和芦笋，营造出层次分明、香气扑鼻的口感。首先，请看到这道菜肴的美丽颜色和形态鲜嫩的芦笋与饱满的香菇在盘中相互交织。放上红酒水煮蛋，如同戴上皇冠，勾勒出诱人的食欲画面。大厨用芦笋泥点缀，用高汤和橄榄油来煎熟芦笋和蘑菇，再用红葡萄酒汁和调味料煮鸡蛋，这样两者的风味更加立体。芦笋和蘑菇的鲜美风味与红酒汁的醇香尽情交融，每一口都令人沉迷。用心煮菜的厨师期盼着时刻的品尝体验。作为西餐厨师戈登·拉姆齐一直相信美食是连接人心的桥梁。接下来我们学习这道菜的具体烹饪方法。
99 times out of 100, you'll see asparagus steamed or boiled. What happens when they're boiled or steamed? All the flavor goes out of them. So what I'm doing, I'm keeping the skins on. Why? Because the flavor is in that skin. Now, each asparagus tip has a woody part. That bit there is the bit that sticks in the ground, so you can't eat that. So, it's called feeling for the asparagus. You run the knife down, and the minute it's soft, beautiful. That's what you want there, that beautiful, nice, round tip there. So last, you basically take off about 2 inches of the asparagus. Don't throw them away. They're great woody parts. Now, for the puree. I'm not going to waste the tip of the asparagus because that's the sweetest part. I'm going to take about 1 centimetre off each asparagus and slice them. And that's going to start the base of my puree. So hold the asparagus together and let the knife do the work and literally lift up and down. And all I'm doing now is trimming the asparagus. So you can see why. You can see why I'm not wasting any of it. Let the knife do the work, pierce them together, and just, again, that up and down motion. And all I'm doing now is sizing up my asparagus for the plate, thinking about the presentation as we go. And also, there's nothing worse when you're on a lunch or dinner and you're trying to negotiate a big, long spear of asparagus. The flavour of these parts, I call it the middle section of the asparagus, is incredible. And look, all we've done now is literally trimmed our asparagus, ready for cooking. First off, the puree. Now, the secret behind an asparagus puree, for me, is in the actual sweating of the asparagus. Stove on, a little knob of butter, tiny bit of butter. The secret now is gently sweating off that asparagus. You can see it's almost like it's sort of shredded, but the flavour in here. Any other chef will be peeling their asparagus. What do they do with their peel? They throw the peel away. This makes an amazing puree. Now, sweat that butter. In there, a teaspoon of shallots. White shallots over onions, a lot sweeter, a lot finer, and a lot more control over the acidity. A white onion, very, very sharp. I like that nice sweet contrast to asparagus, but more importantly, I don't want anything overpowering. Lightly sweat off the shallots and garlic with no colour. Really important, no colour. This puree for me needs to be dark, vibrant, and really nice and green. So if I put any colour on the shallots and garlic, it disturbs the colour of my asparagus. Asparagus in, and we sweat them off now. Beautifully down. Now this is a great sort of way of not just no waste, but more importantly, an amazing way to experience the flavour of great asparagus. Lightly seasoned, such as salt, and such a pepper. From there, let's take some of this this is beautifully homegrown thyme. It's the lemon thyme, so it gives that nice sort of lift and sort of magic to the asparagus puree. Just pick a couple of little buds of thyme and into the asparagus. That's going to make that asparagus puree nice and fragrant. And like I said, this puree goes beautifully with this dish. But it's really important because I don't want an over sort of bitter flavour in the asparagus. Once I've sweated that down, you can see the asparagus starts to break down. And as it starts to melt, that smell, that sort of nice, sweet, braised flavours coming out. Now, here's the secret. If you keep that nice and flat in the pan, it cooks evenly. Red wine, poaching the eggs, brought up to the boil. I'm going to leave that off and just let that simmer, and I'll show you why in a minute. Sweat off that asparagus. Lightly seasoned. I've got the thyme, lemon thyme in there. It's going to make it a little more fragrant. A little touch of salt, a little touch of pepper, and shallots and garlic. But look, it's starting to break down because I've sliced them super thin. No colour, but just sweating them down. It's really important. It sounds a little bit bizarre, but you can't overcook a puree. Everyone thinks, overcook it, get it nice and fine. No, there's a moment where you have to stop cooking it. And look, the asparagus has just started to break down. And now it's time for vegetable stock. So, clean the outside of the pan, bring all those little bits down, and then add your vegetable stock. Now, don't flood the pan. Stock goes in. You just want to cover the top of the asparagus, okay? Because I want a puree, I want a nice, dense, rich puree. And this puree of asparagus, for me, is almost like, I call it like an asparagus butter. It's like this magical moment that you think, wow, the asparagus tastes great, but the puree is exceptional. Bring that up to the boil, turn that down, and let it simmer. I say simmer because I want it cooking gently. If it cooks too fast, then it explodes the little bits of asparagus and makes the puree very watery. So turn it down, right down to 0, put the lid on, and just let that cook away for 2.5 minutes max. And put the cream in, and that's going to finish this puree beautifully. Cream in, a couple of tablespoons of cream. And before I blitz it, it's really important you bring that back up to the boil. If I bring it back up to the boil, it stops it from breaking. If I put cold cream into there and don't cook it out, it will break by the time I blend it. So back up to the boil and literally cook that cream out. But here's the important part. Before I blitz it, I want you to taste it. Touch more salt. Touch more pepper. It's very hard to season the puree once it's been blended because it doesn't take the seasoning. It makes it rough and grainy. So do it all in here. It's back up to the boil now. And then, look, you can just see at the base of the blender, it's starting to go super fine. And then increase the power. I don't want to lose half of it, splash it all around. Keep it nice and controlled. I mean, that is delicious. One taste. Look at that, beautiful. Right now, I'm like a pig in shit because that is just perfect. And that's just one little part of this dish. This puree is sweet, it's refined, but it's earthy. It's got that wonderful, nice, fresh asparagus taste. And the most important thing about this puree is it's been cooked super quick, so I've got all that healthy nutrient of the asparagus kept in that puree. Now, put that out in that seasoning. Now, here, I have some lemon salt as well. I want a little bit of acidity to that asparagus. So lemon salt, pepper, and think of that black pepper and that lemon. Beautiful. Now for the cooking. For me, the most exciting part. Pan on. Whilst I'm waiting for the pan to get nice and hot, let me talk to you about the mushrooms. This dish is all about the level of simplicity. And for me, these king trumpet mushrooms, the flavor is incredible. I call it the sort of cheap porcini. Slice them in half, and then just nicely with your tip of your knife, just crisscross. When you do this, just like you score it, it helps open up the pores of the mushrooms. You'll see, as the mushroom cooks, it doesn't become spongy in the center. And for me, I get that amazing flavor of olive oil inside that mushroom. So just crisscross, nice and gently. Now, my pan is smoking hot. Normally, asparagus is boiled. I'm blistering the asparagus. Pan piping hot. Turn the gas down. A touch of olive oil in there. Just a touch. And what I want to do now is almost blister the outside of the asparagus. And the flavor that gives it is incredible. Pan nice and hot. Asparagus over. And lay the asparagus in. Not literally covering it with oil. Get that seasoning in there as well. Now, honestly, once you've tasted asparagus like this, you'll never ever want to go back to boiled asparagus, let me tell you. Skin's on, gas nice and high. When you leave the skin on the asparagus, it protects it so it doesn't overcook it. Look what happens. It starts to blister the outside of the asparagus. It's almost like you're sticking asparagus on the barbecue. I'm starving them of water. I don't want water to go anywhere near there because I want to keep that flavor, that high intensity flavor, that nice, clean, beautiful sweetness of asparagus. Turn them over, roll them round. This is called basically putting colour on the asparagus. So good, so nice. It's like that nice, light barbecue flavor. It's almost like a sort of charcoal. You can smell how sweet the asparagus is, and I'm nowhere near water yet, so the flavor is intensifying. A touch of butter in there. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Look at that asparagus now. Look what's happening to it. And this is the secret of working with a cast iron pan, because it retains the heat, but it also gives that amazing flavor on top of the asparagus. Gas down, and then from there, literally, we'll pour in a tablespoon of stock. And this is the vegetable stock, okay? So this whole thing stays nice and clean. And as the stock gets in there, it'll absorb and glaze the asparagus now. They're not cooked, but the stock helps to steam the asparagus. Watch what happens. Stock goes in. Beautiful. Take some tin foil, and literally just sit that on top. Take it off, and leave it on the side. Beautiful. Amazing. You've got that nice toasted garlic flavour. It's got that wonderful fragrance from that thyme. And I like being generous with the thyme. That just takes mushrooms to a completely different level. Now, beautifully coloured. Drain them. That way we don't get any sort of excess oil on the plate. Take them out. Flavour from these mushrooms. Beautiful. I mean, really beautiful. We've got nice little thyme flowers on. Beautifully coloured. See behind these, I'm taking all the water out for the flavour. It's a pure mushroom. Look at that. Amazing. Great. Poaching egg, we've all done. Nice, beautiful, but poaching it in red wine just gives it that nice silky tannin, and it turns that egg white into something even more tastier. Don't use an expensive wine. You know, house wine is fine. Bring it up to the boil. Lightly season it. Touch of salt. Touch of pepper, and then a nice bay leaf. Get a couple of cloves of garlic and just lightly, and I mean lightly, crush the garlic. Now the nice thing about this red wine is you can use time and time again. And every time you use it, the eggs just get richer and richer and richer. Bring it up to the boil. You're going to spin the red wine round and drop the egg into it. That's going to be the final coat of that asparagus. Think about the 70s, the 80s, asparagus holiday sauce, wild mushrooms. This just takes it to a different level. So a poached egg gives it that richness, and it's that final royal coating across that asparagus that just takes this dish to zenith. Slotted spoon crucial, because we go in there without denting the egg and lift out that egg. Whisk red wine up to the boil, create that vortex. Basically, we're spinning the red wine round. And what happens is I crack the egg and the egg goes in, all that beautiful egg white wraps around the yolk. But it beautifully sort of stains the outside to this nice dark, beautiful red colour. Look for a nice large egg, okay? And also with the eggs, you know, I prefer cooking them at room temperature. Cook them straight from the fridge, you know, it makes that yolk so much more denser, so be careful. Always crack on a flat surface. Open and crack into a little bowl first. That protects your egg yolk. Again, vortex, whisk in one hand, egg in the other. Bring that up to temperature and drop that in. You'll see that spinning around gently. Now, the nice thing about this red wine is you poach eggs in here, trust me, pass it through a sieve, chill it down and use it again. Incredible. Back on the heat, gently. Now they take about 90 seconds to poach. So I'm taking it on and off the heat. It's got that vortex still running. Sometimes when you put it back on the heat, it starts to boil it rapidly. So I don't want that bursting. So you just go on, bring up the momentum, back off. And that helps to cook the egg pan even. And gently put the spoon underneath the egg and lift out. And now's the chance to get rid of any excess egg. Sometimes all those little unwanted bits out onto the paper and drain that egg. Beautiful. Now, lightly, season that with a little touch of that lemon, citrus, salt, twist, black pepper. And now, we start to plate.